Hey everyone, my name is Adibody, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make custom textures for your 3D models that you're making with AI. I'm a 3D artist myself, and I'm going to be teaching you some tips of the trade to get some more of that customization and personalization inside of your 3D meshes that you're generating. So I hope you guys enjoy. If anything, I'm going to be speaking about doing custom texturing for the skull, because last time, if you remembered, we got this image here and we were able to generate the 3D object with this image, and then you would also be able to get the texturing from this picture as well. But as we are all artists and we want to make things our own and do things differently, there's quite a couple ways that we can change the look of this skull and the texturing of it. One of the easiest ways right off the bat that we could do that is to go right back into our image generator and to edit the image. So for instance, I have this one right here and I'm using Nano Banana again. And so instead of, for instance, I don't want to have an illustrated looking skull. I want more of a neon black high contrast with glowing like metallic material. Just think of whatever you can think of. We can even go, we'll skip that actually, because it would require us to regenerate the mesh. We're just going to stick to the color right now. But anyways, let me fix this typo. Neon. And let's just see what this does. So you probably can see on the side I've already generated a couple of these. You can kind of get a sense, if you look to the right, of different types of texturings that we could do. The Nano Banana I've found as just a review of this service. It's really good at editing the images so that it sticks to the same form. Like, look at that. Really well sticks to the same form. But wow, really does well in getting a new texture, a new feeling. And all we have to do is the same thing that we did before. We're going to go and save this image. Let me save it in schools. Actually, let me see here. Little schools window is in the way. There we go. So scroll down here and just download this. Okay. All right, perfect. And save. All right, so now that that's saved, and you could do this as many times as you want, and do all kinds of variations. Like, I'll just go through a couple that I did right here. I did this one, kind of in the same vein, neon, this one, another one metallic with it. And so it totally it keeps the same form as before. And now we have, on a dime, all these different ways to reimagine the skull. So if we go now and hop back over to Meshy, now that we saved that, everyone has their save folder. Before I put mine on the desktop, I have a special folder now for schools for this class. But if we go now into workspace, like we did last week, what's really neat about this technique is you don't have to regenerate your mesh at all. So if I go back to the one that we did last week, and we see here, this guy is still the same, or we can even, we'll just use this one. This is the same exact skull as last week. But if we go to texture now, instead of using what we used before, which is this illustration, we're going to go into our files. I'm going to go into school right here. And then we're going to grab that new one that we just made. We're going to drop that right into here. And we can texture that. And then, basically, I'll go through also different ones that I did here. I was showing you that other metallic looking one. If we go here, you can immediately see, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but yeah, this one's already generated, so it'll be quicker for us to see it. this is what it looks like. So we immediately went from having an illustrated skull that was yet last week's to immediately being able to work with a totally other textured skull. This is reminding me of like Terminator, but with like a raving Terminator.
Hey,
So yeah.
Antibody, we lost your screen.
Oh, you lost my screen? Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me see. Share screen again. Sorry about that. Thank you for telling me. How about now? Is it working now?
Yep. Awesome.
Awesome. Cool. So now, yeah, you kind of have like this like rave Terminator that I did, as a test run. But let's see here, this new one that we just did. So it's 78%. I'm actually really excited to see that one. I really liked how it generated. It's like a glass iridescent texture. That's awesome. It's a cool thing about the AI. It is um, like a spinning wheel type of thing. A lot of times you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but that's kind of fun in my opinion, because just like that, I was not expecting that. That was super cool texture. So let's
Hey,
see
Antibody,
this. 99. Mm-hmm.
do you
Hmm.
mind just running through that process one more time? Just
Oh,
because I
of
think
course.
when you were
Yeah.
generating the texture, it's right when it cut out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So let's do that one more time. It's actually. Ooh, let's go back here. Let's go here. All right. So hopefully my screen is sharing. And then if we go back to that model we made from last week, we click on the texture button again this time, and it brings up this whole window. We get our uh, new texture that we just generated, and we just drag it onto here, and we press texture. And see this one, now that I'm looking at it, it might be a bit of a struggle for Meshy to do this, just because of the glass and stuff like that. So now that when we get this on here, and we see it, it came out okay, but nonetheless, it's still very different from the illustrated skull. It doesn't look like that glass one that we were going for, but it's still pretty badass in my opinion. And again, this is another example of when I generated it with the Terminator robot looking version. So now, what's really cool about this technique is you can go ahead and download this just like the last one. You go ahead and download your GLB, and just like before, I'm gonna put mine in schools again. Yeah, same folder right here. And save. And right now I can X out a Meshy, slowing down my computer a little. So I'm gonna go straight into Blender now. And what's really neat is if we go here, let me see if I can get that file real quick. I thought I had it here. It's on here real quick. I'll get it. Just getting the GLB from last week so that I can kind of get the animation and everything going, and also show you what I'm doing here. So let's see here, drive, and then just illust. Classes. And then these assets too should be available for everyone. The original reference image, the GLB file, the 3D of the skull, and as well as the actual Blender file as well. So you can see all the export settings and everything. And if anything, you can even use it as a template. If you have a GLB that you want to export, you can toss it in there and export it, and all the settings are going to be good. So I'm going to download that real quick. And, as soon as it wants to download. And okay, perfect. So now I'm going to open that real quick, and we'll have a new instance of Blender with last week's project. So if we see here, if I press play, it's going to be the same thing as last week, no difference. And now let me show you just how simple it is to get it from this guy looking the way he is to the new textures. If I go back here to the schools one. Leave me alone. Sorry, I was doing a notification. I'll pop this back down. But again, you go to your folder where you saved your texture or your new GLB file, the Meshy with the new mesh file, right? Or the new texture. And you're gonna just drag and drop it into here like this. Press import. And at first it's gonna go, it's gonna do this, and it's gonna have two skulls. All you're gonna do is just mute that one we just added. You can even delete them if you want. If you check right here, we can press X on this mesh _0 and it deletes him because we don't want him. All we wanted really was the information that he carried with his texture. So if we go now, this all makes sense in 1 second. If we go now and click on that skull and we go to the materials, right now the material is set to the old material of the illustration type look. If we click on this drop down right here, look, this is the second material. I click on that, boom, it matches it perfectly. And this is the power of this technique. You can iterate hundreds and hundreds of ideas, make the skull any which way you want, and it's all right here. Boom, perfectly UV wrapped to the skull. And now, because this all translated to what we already animated, now it's animated as well. So it's an animated, retextured skull we can do over and over again. And so this technique is almost near perfect for so many things, but there's a big but, and that's where this whole kind of thing kind of goes into. This is a really neat trick, but it can only go so far because, for instance, what if I wanted to, I don't know, do something fun where I wanted to draw into here, or I wanted to make this my own and turn this mesh, or excuse, not the mesh, but the texture into an artwork that I could actually manipulate and do something I wanted on my own. It's kind of difficult with Meshy. It's a give and take. Sometimes you'll adjust things here or there, but it'll change it way more than you wanted to. There's a bunch of complications. And then here's the real kicker. If you go into Blender and try to edit the mapping yourself or the UV, this is what we are gifted with. Check this out. All of that. That's what we have to manipulate in order to adjust the texture for this skull. Needless to say, that's insane. This is confusing. This is AI, only makes sense to AI, and it's amazing, definitely awesome, but we just don't have the ability, and we do, it just is such a pain in the butt. And so really though, there's a lot of methods, traditional methods, to get around this. And especially with simpler shapes like this, we could get away with a lot of things. So I'll go right off the bat, and I'm gonna just delete both of the materials from the skull and the jaw. And boom, look at what we got. We got a white skull, right? Except if you see here, there is no material. And if I press new, now we officially have made a material. So now it's a material, even though it was white before, now it's an actual material. So I'm just gonna put this as skull bone, right? And I have to go over here and do the same thing for the jaw and the skull. They both have to be set to the same material because remember from last week, these are two separate objects. So I have to go onto the skull, press skull bone material, go to object, click on him. Same thing on this drop down right here, go to skull bone. Now what's really neat about this is check this out, because now these two pieces are sharing the same material. If I go to the base color here and I change it, on the dime, I can make a red skull, pink skull, green, all the different forms. And you have much more control with this way because now I can make it look more metallic. I can make the roughness go away, man, make it look really glossy and shiny. And then check this out, because this is kind of like low poly in and of itself. Right now, it's kind of automatically smoothed, and that's like the shade smooth. We bring this up by and sorry, I don't mean to go over this too quickly, but if you look at the mesh, it's not showing it correctly. It's showing it in a smooth fashion. And this is a trick that we do in 3D to kind of make something that's low poly look a lot more in depth and have more to it or smoothness to it than is actually there. But in this situation, it might be hurting us more than it's helping us. Because if you see here, there's all these reflections going on in the skull, all these, mirroring effects that are happening from the roughness. And if we right click this and put shade to flat, boom, now it really comes to life. You can really see all that diamond crystalline effect going on, and you can also see the full shape of what it's actually supposed to be. And we can do the same thing for the jaw. Ooh, computer's slowing down. Oh no, don't die on me. And again, shade flat. So this is gonna, right off the bat, really get that now it has that low poly look to it. Before it was like, looser mesh. This is more classic low poly in my opinion. So this is again right to the point. All I did is put one material on here, and we've re-changed this skull in ways that would, would be a hit and miss with Meshy. This we can be a lot more intentional. We can be very specific. We can even do things like, and this right here, by the way, is just want to get you guys accustomed to this. When we press a new material, it automatically puts up these settings. And this is a very complex part of Blender, and like I said, you don't have to learn all of it. You really just, for this section and for this technique, you just have to learn this. And these are the kind of settings you get with it. I definitely encourage you to play with them. And what's really cool about the default material that you get on here is that it translates to illust very well. So if you have it set to metallic or the roughness, put the alpha down, like if you want it to be a bit more see-through. When it loads, it'll happen. There it is. See, if you want it to be more see-through, this does actually translate over to illust. Illust will keep all of these material settings the way they are. Really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and put this to kind of like an off-white pink, kind of like that. I like that. There we go. And then I'm going to show you guys a really cool trick that we do a lot inside of like vaporwave and cool things like that, where we, a lot of times in like vaporwave art, there's like the line graph that just covers everything. You see the mesh and everything. So to pull that off, it's a pretty cool, simple technique. And it works very well for low poly. So what I'm going to do is just select the skull. You can select them both at the same time if you want, but I'm just, for simplicity, going to select the skull for first, so you see what it does. Actually, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I skipped a step. What we want to do is we want to select both of these like that, right? Just drag, select, hold them both down, and then we're going to press Shift and D, and that's going to duplicate them. And then see how it's like moving with my mouse? Just press Escape, and it'll go immediately back to the origin point. So now you'll have two skulls overlapping each other. What I'm going to do now is, see up here, we have duplicate of the jaw. So we have jaw 001 and the duplicate of the skull, which is skull 001. I want to put the duplicates in their own collection so it makes it easier for us to see. I'm going to press on this collection, press new. And then I'm going to double click this new collection that happened right here. And I'm going to name it wire. So now I'm going to grab these, and you can literally just drag and drop into that folder, the new duplicated ones. So now we have a separation between the wire and the skull. Let me clean this up, adding one more collection. So I'll put this as skull. I'm a big stiff on organization in Blender. It saves your life. So right off the beginning, it's fun. Now we have a clear separation between the skull and this wire mesh that we're going to make in a second. So I'm going to turn those both on right now. And right now, those two skulls are perfectly overlapping each other. So much so that you can't even tell there's two skulls. They're exactly on top of each other and they're exact same size. So that's perfect. That's what we want. We want that. What we want to do now is go to this wire object. So I'm going to click the skull first. And then I'm going to go over to the modifier tab. After he's selected, you have to select him first. And then you go and click this one, which is the modifiers. This is like a little wrench looking one. It's blue. And I also want to mention, to see this and for it to work accordingly, the way it should, you must be in object mode. Object mode is what you want to do all of this in. And you notice I have not actually gone into edit mode this entire time because you don't need to. In this situation, edit mode's not needed. So we just click on that skull, make sure it's the one in the wireframe. We can even select it from here. And you'll see it's because it has that orange line, it's selected. If we go to the modifier and click on add modifier and search, we're going to search for wireframe. Now if I click that, boom, we'll see right off the bat the power of this one. This is super cool. It's one of my favorite things to do, and there's so many utilities for it. It's really incredible. So right off the bat, it looks okay. And you can change this to make it look way better by just getting the thickness and pulling it down. The thickness right off the bat is way too much. So we'll kind of put it like that. All right, I'm going to turn off this part right here, the show overlays, so you can see a little better. Now we're cooking. And if you notice, all of the actual edges that were before, that were like those hard edges that were for the low poly mesh look that we're getting, now they are perfectly traced with this wireframe. Perfectly traced. So that's really cool, right? And now here's one more trick that we're going to do. Oh wait, I'll show you that after I put the wire mesh on the jaw part right here. So I'm going to click on the jaw, and I'm going to do another mesh to him as well, or a wire frame. So and the same thing for him. It always generates it a little bit too thick. You just pull down that thickness until you like it. I like it about there. Great. So now that's looking cool. Put that down just a little bit more. Yeah, we're cooking. That looks cool. I like that a lot. And now this is the really neat part where you can have a lot of fun with it. At this point, there's nothing telling you that you can't go to the skull or the mesh or the wireframe part and totally change up that material. And this is how you do it though. That's a very important thing. So if you click on the skull and the jaw that are in the wire collection right now, you'll notice that they all share the same material, which is this skull bone material that we made before. And it's actually proven by this number right here. This number shows how many objects are using this material. And as if you do the numbers, right? 2 jaws, 2 skulls, it equals 4. So all we got to do when we're doing this, we got to consider that. That's something that took me a minute, that I thought, and when I first started Blender, that every object would have its own material and that they wouldn't affect each other. No way, that doesn't make sense. It does, actually. In Blender, it makes a lot of sense. You find out why later, but it's a concept that a material can be used for anything. So this same material is being used for 4 objects. So all we got to do to get the jaw and the skull not to have that material anymore, we just press this minus button. We go over to the jaw, same thing, minus. Now they officially have no texture. Go back to the skull. I never did that one. Boom. Oh, I didn't do it. Click. Oh, that's not doing it. There it is. It must not registered my click. Okay, so now you already see where I'm going with this. Because we have that contrast between the wire frame and the solid color, we have a really cool thing that we could do here. And all it is now is as simple as going back to the skull and pressing new on the materials here. If we go to the base color, it's very easy to just pull this up straight to black, which is a very neat contrast in my opinion, like that, iridescent pink kind of white mixed with black, lovely. And then we can go ahead and name this material to black. And then we just do that same thing for the skull. And if we click on the drop down, that black material will be there, and boom. And now that has all the animation on it still. and it has this black wireframe. And this, to me, it's really neat because you can really get artistic and very consistent with this. There's more means for you to like really hone in on those specific details like that. And not to say that you couldn't do something very similar, if not, next to the same, with that last pipeline that I showed, where you get the image generations and make the different textures that way. Totally valid. But this, in my opinion, is ways that you can do things very intentionally. I've especially been kind of obsessed with reflections inside of illust, because illust, again, really does a great job of keeping those reflections. And not only does it do the reflections, but it's a live feedback of whatever the camera is seeing. It will be reflected into the actual mesh and what everyone is seeing. So you have a chance to have live visual reaction to real time anything. This was, something I tried to make apparent in different things. Let me show an example. Let's go over here to a screenshot. While I was in LaGuardia, I tried to get some shots of what it looks like. Where is that screen recording? There it is. Let me show you guys real quick. But this is, oh look, that's my the sanctuary for the Echoes of Freedom. I took it there, and then I did the same thing. Oh look, check this out for the skull. So if you look at the skull here, the skull actually reacts to the visuals in real time. So it'll change red, it'll change to whatever the screen is behind it, and it's reacting in real time to the environment that it's around. So this is, it's one of those really cool things that you get that control with using your own textures and having all of that inside of your rig. And so I'm gonna put this all together, put a bow on it, and get this on illust so that we can get the right settings for that and to show you exactly what I mean, and for you to see it yourself right in your office. And so the same thing applies for here. Oh, I don't know why my thing isn't working. There it is. And if we go and just, that same animation that we had from last week, and we have this new material that we placed on it, we're going to do the same protocol as last week. We're going to drag select everything. Or another way, which is a little bit more solid way to do it, is just to do the simple key command, which is just A. A stands for all, and it selects all. And if you go to the overlay button right here, you'll see that everything is selected because we pressed all, A for all. Okay, so now we press go to File, Export here again. And since we have all those great settings that we had before, remember export, include selected, all of this will be good. We don't have to worry about anything of those settings from before. And we're going to just save this in schools as a wire mesh skull, a wireframe skull, excuse me. And give that an export. It should not take long. Wow, looks already done. That was like a split second it took to export. The longer it takes to export, the bigger the file is. That's just a golden rule. So if it takes next to nothing to export, you're looking at less than a megabyte, definitely. So let's go over here, go over to school, and then we can go here. So this original Meshy, we go to and get its information, the one that we generated just today. This is 15 megabytes, pretty decent, pretty average, right? If we go to the one that we just made with animations, custom texturing, all that stuff, right click on that, get info. How much is this? We are at 312 kilobytes. So almost, like 1/3 of a megabyte. So pretty cool stuff. Let's see, and we can test it out on Mac pretty good by just a good double click. This usually tends to test things all right, but I usually like to do Node.js. Node.js is my favorite way. I'm normally on Windows, so that's the best way to test, and I've found. Another one is Sketchfab. You can, like just showed that you can upload to Sketchfab, will be a really good kind of representation of how it's going to be swallowed inside of illust, how illust will be able to take all that data and what it'll do with it. So if we go now onto illust with all of these new goodies that we just made, illust.space, and log in here real quick. Okay, so we're going to go back to the file that we made from last week, which is the skull test, and go edit. And all the settings that we had from last should still apply. So this is probably pretty good. This right here in the center is where you are located. So if you imagine, the skull is going to be a little bit higher than you and a little bit back behind. So the lighting, all that stuff should still carry over just fine. All we really have to do at this point to adjust this model and to do this new iteration is go upload 3D. Oh, excuse me, I skipped that. We are in the main menu right now in Illust Studios. I clicked on my art piece, and right here on the right side, this panel here where we have all the settings, if I scroll down and I click on upload 3D model and go to the file I have located right here, school, and then we press wireframe skull, open. That shouldn't take too long to load because 312 kilobytes. I'm going to save it and then reload the page. And right off the bat, right here, awesome. We should see, oh, this is great. I'm glad this happened. Actually. As you see right here, I wasn't able to test this out before I put it into illust. And right off the bat, just like, if you're noticing with me, I don't see any wireframe. That wireframe part is gone, and it's kind of a plain mesh, or everything's plain. So what we want to do is go back to Blender. And in Blender, you will see a little mistake that I made, or a little mishap, that on the jaw and on the skull itself, the one that the wireframe was applied to, we never, inside the modifier, we never applied that modifier. And we have to, because right now, this is just an effect going on until it's applied. So I'll prove it if I turn this off. Look, it just completely goes away. It takes its old shape, its old form before. But when I turn the effect back on by pressing this little screen button, you'll see that it forces it to do what it was doing. Now, we need to apply that. So all we have to do is click on this drop-down button right here and press apply. Now, this is permanently that shape. It's not going to change shape. And then we got to do the same thing for the skull, the wire frame part right here. And so all we have to do is click on the jaw, and then we go over here to the modifier tab that is on, click the drop down and press apply. Now that is its permanent shape. It will not change. So now at this point, when we press A again, selecting everything, right? We have everything selected. Press file, export, and just put it right on here, overwrite that last one. Everything should transfer perfect now, and go back into illust, and just, for good measure, we could just delete this one so that the naming doesn't confuse anything. Delete that one, upload a new 3D model, and just put that one in there, and shouldn't take long. Gonna go ahead and save, and we have our wireframe. It translated over perfect and looking really cool. And so another thing that we could do, now that we're on illust and we have made these sections of, or we've made these materials, what's really cool is that all that material information is kind of embedded inside the GLB. And so if you go on the drop down here in illust, you have access to the skull bone, just like we had before, and the black. So now on a dime, say for instance, you have it on illust, didn't like the way it was. It looked cool in Blender, but in illust it isn't looking the same. You can always just go click on that skull bone, change the color right here. You can make it any color you want. And then we just save material. And on a dime, we can change it right in illust. We don't even have to go back into Blender. This is really cool for especially like setting your metallic and roughness, because this is one of those things, they will translate, but each platform or engine renders it slightly differently. So what will look like a really high gloss in Blender might not look like a high gloss in illust. And it's just, that's just an example, but it's like you want to always have that range of motion to be able to test on the spot and be malleable like that. And so it's looking a bit dark in here right now, and then that's on purpose, because if we had HDRI around it, it would be creating a fake environment to give fake artificial reflections. And that's usually really nice in the digital world, but we're going to bring this into the real world. And so we don't want any other lighting, for this effect at least, we don't want any other lighting affecting this except for the real nature around it to get the full like color effect and all that stuff. So it looks a little dark right now. It's going to be totally fine. So that's how we do that. And the same thing, we can go to the black, the wire mesh. We can change that to white if we want. That's another fun one to do. Or like an off blue, have some good color theory, and you can do some really cool stuff there. Let's see here. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so cool. So now that we have that, it's already saved. I'm gonna save the materials, and check this out. All we'd have to do from this point is simple AR preview, and custom texturing is done. There we go. You guys can view it all from your spot as well. And yeah, so again, want to just emphasize that all of these materials are available to everyone, so you can follow along, do it yourself. But at the same time, if you ever need to just look at the full project to see it fully completed, it's all there, including that export settings. That's like a big one. And so yeah, this is I feel like it's a new time for everyone, whatever digital work you do. And to me, it's just like the computer. Everyone had to figure out how to incorporate the computer into their business, into their lifestyle, every which way. AI is the same. It's just too helpful. And so I model 3D, but just look at what happened with the skull. Why would I spend 3 hours modeling a skull by hand when I could just immediately address it? I can do different things to doctor it up, put some wire meshing on it, change some materials, heck, add some extra things on it. Like there's one thing that I wanted to show you guys, but it would require us remaking the mesh, so it wouldn't be as convenient, but it's pretty simple still. Is you could like get like a mohawk on the the skull. You could do all kinds of fancy stuff, generate it like that, and then make it your own, and that's something I'm going to go into with the next week, is that Meshy is incredible for giving you pieces. Think of it as like you could building a robot with all the pieces of the puzzle, and you just put it together by hand and do it yourself, like, which is not too crazy. Especially next week, I'm going to show like some really simple sculpting techniques that all you really need for it. It's like one trick pony that'll get you going for most things. And it's really, really cool way. And it's actually like, it looks really nice. It's very satisfying, very highly detailed, and very intentional. And you are molding and sculpting by hand. You're just using predefined assets that you're generating yourself, which is no different than any 3D workflow. A lot of times we're going on asset libraries and downloading and buying something that people have already modeled. It's a new world, and learning to work with it, it's going to be great, and it's also a lot more approachable for a lot of people. So have fun. It's great. So that's my course for the day. Boom,